That's a Falun Gong practitioner being electrocuted with 300,000-volt baton by China's government, who's violating international humanitarian law. Falun Gong do meditative exercises and live by the moral principles of truthfulness, compassion, and tolerance. Chinese regime used to praise Falun Gong for its health benefits. Government officials, everyone was doing it. There were 70 million members, but Chinese regime considers that a threat to their rule. So they banned Falun Gong. They're being arrested, beaten, and tortured, like force feeding, forced commitment to psychiatric facilities, and sexual abuse. Millions of Falun Gong that never committed a crime detained for years, no hearings, no appeal, and forced into slave labor. Even worse, Chinese government stealing their body organs while they're still alive, killing them in the process so China's government can sell the organs to make money. China's hospitals doing large-scale organ harvesting from unwilling citizens have murdered 1 million Chinese prisoners of conscience. 1 million murdered is genocide. China killing prisoners of conscience for their organs is the greatest crime against humanity of the 21st century. Warning, China's violating global organ transplantation laws. China's organ procurement program has a massive pool of living donors they keep on standby to be killed on demand. Lungs go for $150,000. The heart sells for $130K. Chinese regime organ trafficking business been a multi-billion-dollar cash cow for Chinese officials. No other government on earth harvests organs from their citizens to make a profit. Just Chinese government officials getting rich off of China's people's organs. Shame, Chinese government. Shame on you for introducing humanity to a new evil on earth. Huang Jiefu, director of China's Organ Commission, should be a persona non grata in the United States, should be denied a visa to enter U.S. for violating international principles of organ transplantation laws. Same with Dr. Zheng Shusen for doing forced organ harvesting. Deny them visas, Mr. President. Tell China publicly, world wants China to stop stealing prisoners of conscience organs. Create a COI, a commission of inquiry. Need an international criminal investigation of China for their crimes against humanity. Sanction those responsible. General Secretary Xi Jinping, end the persecution and slaughter of Falun Gong. Stop violating global organ transplantation laws. Every country, end transplant tourism to China. Ban your citizens from going to China to get an organ from a non-consenting Chinese prisoner of conscience. Christians are also having their organs stolen from them. Chinese officials harvesting organs from house Christians. Chinese government considers Christianity a threat to their rule, so they declared war against Christianity. Chinese regime's church cross demolition campaign has removed 2,000 crosses from churches and bulldozed 50 churches. Clear violation of religious freedom laws guaranteed in China's constitution, which says there's religious freedom, but it's a lie. There's no religious freedom in China. If Christians meet U.S. diplomats and American embassy in China to complain about Chinese regime's repression of the Christian faith, they go to jail. If Christians conduct services in their own home, they go to jail. Pastor Bo Guohua recently was sentenced to 14 years in prison, his wife sentenced to 12 years in prison for refusing government orders to remove their church's cross. There are hundreds of innocent Christians that never committed a crime in Chinese government's jails. Protestant clergy appointed by China's government, not by the congregants. Catholic clergy appointed by China's government, not the Vatican. Chinese regime issued an ultimatum to parents: if their children don't stop attending church, they'll be barred from attending college. Chinese regime prevents children under 18 from receiving any Christian education. Communist Party General Secretary Xi Jinping, end your war against China's evangelical and Catholic communities. Stop bulldozing China's churches and ruining these people's lives. Stop violating China's constitution. Allow real religious freedom in China. President Trump sanctioned Zhejiang Province Communist Party boss Sha Bolong. He should be persona non grata for leading a campaign against Christian groups. Put him on visa denied list. Chinese lawyers also being arrested. 250 lawyers within the last year been rounded up by Chinese regime for defending Christians and other victims of Chinese government injustices. If Chinese human rights lawyers represent Falun Gong or a Christian or a democracy advocate, they go to jail. Lawyer Zhang Tianyang met an imprisoned lawyer's wife. They put him in jail just for meeting the wife of an imprisoned lawyer. Chinese regime uses the 300,000-volt baton against lawyers, using electric baton to torture lawyers, violation of global human rights laws. There's no rule of law in China. Gao Jixing, once China's top 10 lawyers, but he defended victims of government abuses. So they took away his law license, closed his law firm, been torturing him in jail for years, even though this innocent lawyer never committed any crime. He's called the conscience of China. God bless you, Gao, for exposing Chinese government injustices. Lawyer Gu Fishang sentenced 6 years, denied medical treatment, denied access to his family and lawyers, which violates China's detention center regulations and violates the United Nations Committee Against Torture laws. Zhou Shifeng, Wang Yu, Pu Jiqing, Xi Yang, Li Herping, Wang Tranjiang, to all lawyers in jail right now, you're not forgotten. China's legal system designed to serve the government, not the people. No courts in China uphold justice because there's no independent judiciary in China, no rule of law in China. General Secretary Xi Jinping, stop casting human rights lawyers as enemies. Allow China's lawyers to elect officials for Beijing's Bar Association. Stop influencing China's judicial process. Allow independent judiciary in China. World wants a special rapporteur to monitor human rights in China. Get the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights to assign permanent staff to monitor human rights developments in China. Publishers, journalists also jailed in China because there's no media freedom in China, no independent reporting in China. If an investigative journalist writes about labor unrest or about corruption or about a chemical plant explosion, they go to jail. It's a one-of-a-kind Chinese government anti-truth campaign. Tell the truth, go to jail. News gets stopped on political grounds, even if it's true. China's regime-run news media serves China's government, not China's people. China's constitution says there's free speech. That's a lie. There's no free speech in China, no free press in China, no free association, no free assembly, no independent unions, no academic freedom, no artistic freedom, no media freedom, no independent thought. Can speak freely about political reform, even in their own homes. If they do and get caught, they go to jail. Chinese talk about democracy or freedom or express a different opinion than China's government, they go to jail. Lu Gensong published pro-democracy essays on overseas websites about China's Democracy Party. They sentenced him to 11 years in jail. Liu Xiaobo, Nobel Peace Prize winner, wrote about freedom and human rights in China, sentenced him to 11.5 years in jail. China's holding hundreds of bloggers, writers, and journalists in jail. China's the world's #1 jailer of journalists. Chinese government treats literature as poison, treats free speech as a crime, treats independent thinking as their enemy. Out of 1.4 billion people, not one newspaper can express objective views. Not one TV station can broadcast objective programs. Chinese government-managed news is media malpractice. Curbing dissemination of ideas violates basic human rights. Stop jailing citizen journalists. Stop arresting information activists. The Chinese government's Great Internet Firewall, which blocks China's people's access to online information outside of China, is the most repressive internet censorship in the world. Chinese government censorship ranks last of 65 nations in internet freedom, even worse than North Korea. Type Dalai Lama into China's Great Firewall search engine, nothing comes up. Type in June 4th, 1989 Tiananmen Square massacre. Search not found because there's no internet freedom in China. There's hundreds of words blocked on China's internet. New York Times banned. Time Magazine, Economist Magazine banned. Bloomberg News, Reuters, all banned. Facebook banned, Twitter banned, no YouTube, no Google, no Gmail, all blocked in China. General Secretary Xi, stop blocking internet freedom. It's a universal right. It's the will of China's people to have independent internet. China's censored internet needs more freedom, not less. Stop being a threat to the World Wide Web. Stop spreading China's anti-freedom tentacles to undermine the world's open internet. Mr. President, sanction Yulin, head of China's cyberspace administration, for being the enemy of global internet freedom. He should be a persona non grata. Deny Yulin a visa, President Trump. Tear down China's Great Firewall. Taiwan's people want nothing to do with China's anti-freedom government. During Taiwan's free and fair elections, Taiwanese chose Tsai Ing-wen of the Democratic Progressive Party to be Taiwan's president. Taiwanese hate China's anti-democratic dictators. Taiwanese love their free speech, free press, independent judiciary, and rule of law. They don't want China taking that away from them. China says Taiwan's people want to be ruled by China. That's a lie. Last thing Taiwan's people want, be ruled by China. China's the biggest threat to Taiwan's way of life. Taiwan's been a sovereign, self-governing, freely elected, normal democratic country for decades, opposite China's one-party authoritarian dictatorship. Taiwan is not a part of China. There's one China, one Taiwan, two different countries. Taiwan's democracy shines as a beacon to China's people. Taiwan's freedoms has won the hearts and minds of China's people. Taiwan's a model for China's future democratic development. All Chinese people want freedom, human rights, and the rule of law. To Democratic and Republican senators and House members, do democracy a favor. Pass Taiwan Travel Act H.R. 535. Allow visits between U.S. and Taiwanese officials. It's ridiculous that Taiwan's democratically, freely elected president can't participate in formal diplomatic meetings. Chinese anti-freedom government officials should be the ones not allowed to participate in formal diplomatic meetings. Mr. President, restore full diplomatic and military relations with democratic Taiwan. Meet in person with Taiwan's democratically elected president, Tsai Ing-wen. Make Taiwan a full participant in all global organizations. Admit Taiwan into the United Nations. Make Kissinger's mistake right. UN membership for Taiwan. Do the right thing. End the one China fiction. Long live Taiwan's Democratic Progressive Party. May the Republic of Taiwan's democracy endure 10,000 years. And sell Taiwan jet fighters and submarines. Let Taiwanese defend themselves. Hong Kongers, like Taiwanese, love their freedoms, which Hong Kongers were promised they'd have until 2047. But Chinese government lied. 1997, England handed over Hong Kong to China, who guaranteed Hong Kongers they can keep their British legal rules-based political system, which is enshrined in the 1984 Sino-British Treaty. Now, instead of letting Hong Kong's high standards of governance, like rule of law, spread to mainland China, China's taking away Hong Kong's civil liberties. It's why Hong Kongers protested for 3 months. Chinese regime blames USA for Hong Kongers protesting. Chinese dictators should place the blame where it belongs, on themselves for lying to Hong Kong's people, and for lying to the world that Hong Kongers would be allowed to choose who they'd be ruled by. I pledge allegiance to the Hong Kong nation, because China's a millstone around Hong Kong's neck. China's an albatross around Hong Kong's neck. General Secretary Xi, stop violating Hong Kong's constitution. Keep China's promise to allow Hong Kongers to choose their candidates for chief executive, and stop allowing Hong Kong to be used as the hub for the world's illegal trade in shark fins. World's wildlife plummeting because China's eating Earth's wildlife out of existence. Traditional Chinese medicine thinks eating rhino horn has health benefits, but rhino horns are keratin. It's the same thing as our fingernails. Has no nutritional value at all. Only threat to rhinos? China's people. Stop killing rhinos. Pangolin, endangered species because China's people eating them all. Only threat to pangolins? China's people. Stop ruining Earth's ecosystem by eliminating pangolins. Stop ruining Earth's ecosystem by eliminating pangolins. China, stop fueling illegal wildlife trade industry. Donkeys from Africa are being butchered by China to get the gelatin from the donkey's skins to produce Erjiao. EJIAO, pronounced Erjiao. Traditional Chinese medicine thinks it cures blood circulation, but it doesn't. China's illegally stealing, torturing, and killing Africa's donkeys has caused Burkina Faso and Niger to ban exporting donkeys to China. Only threat to donkeys? China's people. Stop decimating Earth's donkeys. Elephants being pushed to the brink of extinction because Chinese turn ivory tusks into chopsticks and rings. The only threat to elephants? China's people. Yang Fenglan killed 100,000 elephants, committing genocide against Africa's elephants. Elephants' existence at stake because China's been violating global ivory ban for 27 years. Wildlife warning. Wildlife warning. China violates every African country's wildlife laws. Xi Jinping, enforce your ban on the ivory trade in China. Action speaks louder than your BS words. Indonesia's helmeted hornbill bird endangered because China is using their skulls to make trinkets. 2,000 hornbill bird skulls seized from Chinese who've been caught leaving Indonesia with the birds in their bags. Only threat to helmeted hornbill birds, China's people. Make it a crime to traffic Indonesia's hornbill birds before they become extinct. Tigers, almost extinct in the wild because Chinese want to eat the tiger's penis in a soup. They think if they eat the tiger's penis in a soup, they're going to give their girl an extra good shag. Forget about that. And they put the tiger's bones into wine. Don't buy tiger bone wine made in China. They created tiger farms so they could breed tigers to kill them for their penis and bones. Tigers weren't created for China's people to eat. Only threat to tigers, China's people. Bears, tortured by Chinese who extract the bear's bile. China has bear farms to breed bears to collect the poor bear's bile. China's breeding bears, tigers, and dogs so they can eat them. Xi Jinping, stop encouraging China's people to eat Earth's endangered wildlife. Discourage it. Don't encourage it. Become civilized. Enforce laws banning animal abuse. Dogs. Man's best friend, my beloved dogs, 20 million of them killed every year in China for their meat and skin. Last place a dog wants to be, in China. Yulin Dog Killing and Eating Festival qualifies these Chinese to win the award for the lowest form of life on Earth. These bottom-of-the-barrel, uncivilized Chinese so-called people, disgrace to the human race. Most of the 20 million dogs killed are raised on industrial farms, but a lot were people's pets stolen by Chinese dog traders who sell the dogs to lowlifes who then skin the dogs alive to use the dog's skin to make golf gloves and leather belts and leather gloves that you wear in winter. Look at the label of your belts and gloves. If they're made in China, they're made from a dog that was skinned alive. It's immoral to buy golf gloves and winter leather gloves made in China. Look at the label. Says made in China? Put it down, please. Your leather shoes made in Italy? Made from dog skin. Stop wearing leather products. Buy cruelty-free clothes. Stop buying leather products. Xi Jinping, get a conscience. World wants China to 1. Protect people's pets, enact new domestic animal anti-cruelty laws. 2. End the killing and eating of dogs at China's Yulin festival. 3. End the dog leather trade industry in China. 4. End the dog and cat meat supply chain in China. 5. End the dog and cat fur trade industry in China. No one should be surprised at the many uncivilized acts emanating from China. China is at the fringes of civilization. Every country should ban the import of Chinese fur so fewer animals are killed. Any purchase of fur products from China supports the slaughter of cats and dogs. Be against the trade of cat and dog furs. Every country end Chinese fur imports. Need a global ban on fur imports from China. 70 million sharks are killed every year by the Chinese cruel practice of cutting sharks' fins off while they're alive, then throwing the bleeding, injured shark back into the ocean to suffer and die. This violates Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species. Sharks' existence at stake, so Chinese can show off their wealth by eating shark fin soup. Sharks been in the oceans for 400 million years, not in Earth's oceans for Chinese fishermen to kill 7,000 sharks every hour. SOS! Sound the alarm! China's removing a keystone species from our ocean's ecosystems. Only threat to sharks? China's people. Do the right thing for once. Implement legislation that bans the possession, sale, trade, and distribution of shark fins in Hong Kong and China. End illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing. Stop destroying our ocean's coral reefs, like you're doing in the West Philippine Sea. Philippines' oceans are being raped by Chinese fishermen who violate Philippines' exclusive economic zone every day. United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea says every country owns up to 12 nautical miles from their coastline and allowed economic rights over waters 200 nautical miles from that country's coast, called Exclusive Economic Zone, EEZ. Map on your left, internationally recognized Philippines EEZ. On the right, China's illegal 9-line claim that includes Philippines' Spratly Islands, which are only 150 miles from the Philippines, well within Philippines' EEZ, but 1,000 miles from China, far outside China's EEZ. China stealing Spratlys from Philippines violates UN law of the sea. Xi says China promotes a good neighbor policy. That's a lie. China's defense minister is telling China's citizens to prepare for a people's war at sea. China prevents Filipino fishermen from fishing in Philippines' traditional fishing grounds, ruining Filipino fishermen's lives. China's the worst neighbor any country could ever have. China violates Vietnam's EEZ, violates Philippines' EEZ, violates Indonesia's EEZ, violates Malaysia's EEZ. But the worst is the Chinese illegal fishing vessels off the west coast of Africa that have depleted Guinea's fish population. Guinea's fishermen no longer have fish to feed their children. China's stealing from the poorest people on earth. Have you no shame? Stop raping Guinea's ocean. Stop ruining Guinea's people's lives. Back to the Philippines. To safeguard the Philippines' national sovereignty and territorial integrity, Philippines took China to the UN Hague-based Permanent Court of Arbitration, PCA, for stealing Philippines' Spratly Islands. But China refused to participate at the World Court of Justice because they knew they're violating global law. Judges unanimously ruled China has no historic claim to the Spratlys, said China's extensive claim have no legal basis, said China's claim of a 9-line illegal. Instead of adhering to the PCA's final ruling, China stuck their thumb in the UN's eye by trying to delegitimize the World Court's decision. China is a signatory to the UN Convention on the Law of the Sea. Therefore, China has no right to reject the PCA's ruling. China has no right to not accept legally binding global decisions. The world hasn't forgotten the Permanent Court of Arbitration ruling. International community doesn't recognize China's claim to the Spratly Islands. Canada, US, UK, Europe, Australia, Malaysia, Indonesia, Vietnam, even Russia says China should adhere to the Permanent Court of Arbitration's ruling. It's China versus the world. China's violating UN Convention on Law of the Sea is going to cause a war. And China's lawless behavior. Remove your 9-dash line from China's maps. End China's illegal occupation of Philippine Spratly Island. Mr. President, don't let China militarize Scarborough Shoal. 20,000 Americans died liberating Philippines from Japan during World War II. General MacArthur is rolling over in his grave that China now controls Scarborough Shoal. No China militarizing Scarborough Shoal. Sanction Wu Xitran, the president of China's National Institute for South China Sea Studies, also denied visa to Hua Tranying, China's foreign ministry spokeswoman, for violating UN Convention on Law of the Sea. India, another country, had their land stolen from them by China. Today, India's Arunachal Pradesh and Ladakh illegally occupied by China, who refuses to recognize Indian sovereignty over Indian soil. Arunachal Pradesh is an integral part of India. China violates India's border hundreds of times every year because China has no respect for India's territorial sovereignty. USA got India's back, not China, who hurts India's steel industry, causing Tata Steel to close steel mills in India because China's flooding India with illegally subsidized Chinese steel. India has a $53 billion trade deficit with China. President Modi, end tariff concessions for China. Don't buy trains from Chinese anti-democratic government-owned train company CRRC. Buy trains from Japan or Germany or Canada. Buy trains from India's allies, not from India's enemy, China, who works against India's interest. To India's merchants, stop placing orders for Chinese low-quality made goods. Swadeshi. People of India, don't buy Chinese government-owned laptop computers and Xiaomi cell phones. Don't financially support Chinese government by buying their TCL and Vizio TVs. President Trump, India should be a member of the United Nations Security Council.